It's me again. Hi, welcome to Loud Creations. I'm Katie, and today I am making more mead. I made the mead and I took video of making it, and now I'm going to share it with you and talk about what I did. This mead I'm kind of excited about because maybe somebody out there can relate to this, but I have had an enormous collection of tea. I collect tea. I collect a lot of things that at the time I'm really into and I want, and then I'll use, one or two tea bags, and then I'll be at the store and I'll see another tea that looks good and I'll buy that tea. I recently went through my tea collection and realized a good amount of the tea is either a little expired, very expired, or nearly expired. So then it dawned on me, oh my gosh, you know what I can do? I can make metheglins or tea mead. So I'm calling this one my leftover tea mead. And for this one, I selected a lavender chamomile tea. I actually have two boxes of this, but for this recipe, I'm sticking with the one that's almost expired. And then the other one is a rose tea that is very lovely, and I have about half of the canister left. So I figured I'd dump that in there as well. And there's another herb in that tea or flower in that tea, and I can't remember what it's called. But I'll put it right here after I go check. Okay, so now that I've given you an overview of what this mead is all about, I will go ahead and dive into the steps that I took to make it. So the first thing I did was I had a 1.5 gallon carboy, so I decided I'm going to make 1.5 gallons of mead. And I boiled about 3/4 of a gallon of water, poured that into my stock pot, set that to boil. While that was set to boil, I took my rose tea and I put it into a mesh bag so that it wouldn't be floating all over my water. And I decided that I would use 7 or 8 of the chamomile lavender tea bags as well. Once the water was boiling, I tossed my rose tea and my lavender chamomile tea bags into the water. I put a cover on and I let that steep for a good 15 to 20 minutes. I wanted to make sure it was a nice, strong, fragrant tea. Once it was done, I went ahead and squeezed those tea bags to get every last drip of fragrance and flavor out of them. And I added the hot tea to a 1.5 gallon carboy. Once that was in there, I took my 3 pounds of raw honey and I added that to the carboy as well. And then you want to shake it, get some oxygen in there, mix in that honey, make sure that it is fully mixed in and not when you turn the carboy upside down, you don't see it dripping from the bottom. That's a good indication that it is fully mixed. Once the honey was mixed in, I added more cold water to bring up the level in the carboy and also to cool it down a bit. I shook that up as well for a while just to get it good and oxygenated and ready to go for the yeast. And then I took the warm liquid and added some of it to a glass. And at that point, I realized that I should have taken the super hot liquid before I had added the cold water. But what I did instead is I boiled a little water in my teapot and I added hot water to the tea and honey mix that I had put in the glass. And I also added a 1/2 teaspoon of Go Firm. I stirred that up and set it aside. The next step was to add in my orange peel. Just sounded good to me. I recently dried out some orange peel or orange zest and wanted to use it. So I put 2 or 3 strips of orange peels into the carboy along with the honey and water tea mixture. The glass with the Go Firm sat until it was body temperature. So that's kind of my gauge on whether or not something's the right temperature for adding the yeast. Once it was there, I went ahead and pitched my yeast into the slurry. And this time I used EC1118, which has a high alcohol tolerance. It's also the only yeast that I have lying around lately. I have some new yeast on order that I'm excited about. But as it is, EC1118. I mixed that into the slurry and I set it aside for another few minutes until it looked like the yeast were starting to wake up. And the carboy, I wanted to make sure also before pouring the yeast slurry into the carboy that the fluid inside of that was also around body temperature, which it was because I added ice cold water. So got all that done. The yeast looked like it was waking up, so I took that yeast slurry. It's a very difficult thing to say. I took the slurry and I poured it into the carboy along with all of the other ingredients, and I gave that a good shake. And one of the final steps, as usual, is to take a gravity reading. I did do that, and the original gravity for this is 1.074. And my plan is to let this run dry, and then I'll probably back sweeten it. But I didn't want to go too crazy on the honey this time. Yay me, I didn't put as much honey in, and I'm going to have a lower ABV, which is what I'm going for now. The final step would be I added my bung, airlock, with some sanitization fluid in it, and of course my label so that I know what it is, when I started it, what the original gravity was, and any updates I just add to the tag. I am very excited about this mead. I love herbal tea. I don't drink it enough, but I certainly like to buy it. And when I do have herbal tea, it is always an enjoyable experience. You get the fragrance, the warmth. If you add a little honey and some lemon, it's just wonderful. So I have very high hopes for this mead. My favorite flower, I'd say, is the rose, and I love lavender. And, throw in some chamomile. This sounds very uplifting and relaxing at the same time. That's what I hope for this mead. I hope this video is useful. And if you like the content that I'm making here and want to learn more about making mead, please like and subscribe. I see myself making all kinds of meads going into the future because really the possibilities are limitless with all the ingredients that we have out there. I hope this video is useful, and I will be back in a few weeks to check in on this mead and possibly stabilize, back sweeten, and move to the next phase. Maybe I'll even taste it. Depends on where it's at. I will see you next time. Thank you.